Walking a path along the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road to the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and how we could ever hope to escape from the Dragon Tomb. At a corner table by the fire are two people. One of them has noticed a mysterious warrior rabbit in the shadows. That's given him an idea. And that's me, Matthew Mellema, and welcome to Believe to See. We are a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to help you connect the great stories, and our own stories in order to understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. Listeners, if you have been following this show for any length of time, you know that I and the rest of the hosts are big fans of the Green Ember. As a middle grade author myself, but one who is just getting started on that author's journey, I view the Green Ember as a model, something to aspire to. And as a parent, I am thrilled to say my kids have finally reached that age where they are old enough to read and love the books. And more astute listeners may also have deduced that I am also a fan of video games. One of the highlights of my weekends is playing Smash Brothers and Mario Kart with my kids. So you can only imagine how thrilled I was when I heard about the upcoming Green Ember story. Green Ember, Helmer in the Dragon Tomb. You see, this story will be both a novel and a companion video game. To talk about this new and super exciting project, we have a very special guest at the Digital Pub table. The author of Green Ember and great friend of the show, S.D. Smith. So, get ready for a conversation about the Green Ember video game, how it came about, how one goes about making a video game, and also how we can use things like video games in a good and enriching way. So, SD, or as we know you at the pub table, Sam Smith, welcome to the table.
It is so good to be back at the table. I feel like it feels like familiar grounds to me these days. I've been back a few times, and I'm delighted to be here. Love it.
Oh, we always keep an open seat for you at the digital pub table. So let's start with this. I was super excited, like I mentioned, when I heard about this project. So let's start with a little bit of the 30,000-foot view. What is this project? What are you planning to do with it?
Well, thank you, Matt. I am so excited to share. This is. Sometimes you're so in the weeds. You know what it's like when you're working on a project and you sort of, it's almost hard to even think about how to relate it to other people because you're so deep in it yourselves. I'm a little bit in that situation now, just really, really deep in the world of creating the game. The book is sort of, well, it's not even finished really right now either. I mean, the draft is finished, so we're still working on it. It's kind of in progress right now. So right in the middle of doing what I call the creation and then also the connection. And as this when this airs, we'll be sharing this in a Kickstarter. But it is which I'm so excited about, and I hope folks will find this a compelling thing to invest in. It's a book. And we've had, for years talked about how the Green Ember would come off the page, like how would it leap from the page into other mediums, into other media. And a lot of people have wanted us to do film, and we've had a lot of conversations about that. And I think that's going to happen at some point. We're sort of waiting for right partners, right timing on that. And I'm actually really pleased that we've waited on that front. I think that's been a good decision so far. And we were thinking about other mediums, and we've worked on board games, we've worked on several things, but this video game idea, I love this idea of a kid being able to be able to play, to read a book and then to play that book. The kids already do this. The Green Ember is it's a really immersive experience for kids, and it was kind of my favorite stories as a kid. That's what I would be playing Star Wars way more than I would be watching Star Wars. And it was such an immersive world. It was such a world that invited play and other kinds of stories. It was a big universe with lots of side doors and back doors open. And I think the Green Ember is like that. I know it is. I've seen, I've heard from so many parents and kids that that play in their backyard. They're playing games. They're making up games. They're creating art. They're doing a lot of things in the Green Ember world. And I thought this would be a really hospitable invitation to be able to play. And so many kids are already playing video games, and maybe we can talk about that some, but it's sort of meeting a lot of kids where they are, but it's also giving a new way for to tell a story, really, in a highly immersive way to tell a new story. And I like the idea that it wasn't just we came up with a book, or we adapted a book that's been out for 10 years or shorter, but that it's all new, that you can access this new story through a video game, through the novel at the same time. I don't know if anyone's done that before, releasing the book and its video gamization, as we're calling it, at the same time. So it was just an exciting, wild kind of opportunity. We jumped at it.
Yeah, and that is an interesting approach that you took there. And I'm thinking through that as well. So you have the novel and you'll have the companion video game. Did you write the novel sort of with it in the back of your head, like, okay, this will be paired with the video game?
Yeah, I wrote them at the same time, honestly, because of this. I sort of delayed writing the novel a little bit and wrote it slowly along with the development of the game. And it was kind of cool because, it's sort of, there's writing a novel, as you know, has its own challenges about what's possible and has its own constraints. But this was a new constraint. I had to think about it in a different way. And actually, I like that. I mean, you might think that it would be or I think a lot of maybe listeners might think that would be too much of a burden to kind of, but it was neat. It was neat to have a sort of a parameter to think about how this would work as good storytelling in a game and in the novel. So yeah, they grew up together. And it wasn't perfect, and they're not exactly alike. There are things that are different, but it really is you're getting the same or a very similar story. Obviously, to me, I'm pretty biased toward novels. You're going to get a lot more in the novel story. But if you read the novel, you're going to play it, and it's going to be pretty close.
That is really interesting because, if you look back through the history of video games, back to the 80s, it was established that if it was a popular enough movie, you'd get a video game version of it, right? Things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, even infamous ones like the E.T. video game. And then on the other side, you would have, especially more recently, the trend of turning video games into movies. Now, the first attempts were pretty catastrophic, but more recently, we've had some huge successes. The Mario Brothers movie, the Minecraft movie, where they've turned out really well. But we have what you're doing, where you're kind of doing them side by side on the same track. So my question for you is, as a novelist, someone who's written lots of stories, how did knowing that it's going to be a video game too, how did that change your process? Was there anything you changed about how you structured the story? Were there any particular elements you put in to make it more video game friendly? What was your approach to that?
I mean, it was definitely slower. It was challenging to sort of wait a little bit. I would slow down my process a little bit just to sort of give time for what if this scenario is a challenge for the video game. So it was kind of like I'm not much of an outliner, but I do as a novelist, I do think about story beats, and often I'll have a lot of story beats. I know this is going to happen. I might know the ending pretty well, and I might know several of the sort of the beats that get there, but I don't really outline. I'm not a pure discovery writer either. I'm not just sort of winging it entirely, but I'm always want to be alive to this kind of change or that kind of change. So this changed that a little bit in that, but not very much. It was kind of like I knew these big beats, and that was the sort of the path for the video game developers, that we would be sort of working in tandem and on that front, and then filling it out with the novel. There wasn't as much conflict as I would have expected. I think that the plan was sort of like, does this story that I have in my mind, which I've kind of had for a long time, and we haven't really talked about it, but it's this the book and the video game are the origin story for probably the most beloved character in the Green Ember universe. This crusty old mentor that we find in the first Green Ember book, Helmer, and this is his origin story. So I've been thinking about him a long time. Probably been asked, I don't know, 10,000 times, please tell a Helmer story. Please do a Helmer novel. So I've heard that so often for so long. He's such a I don't know, beloved character that I've been thinking about it for a long time. So it wasn't, so imagining it with these sort of constraints of a video game, it wasn't that different. I mean, I was kind of like thinking, would this novel idea make a cool game? And I think there were adjustments, but I just sort of did it at the same time. So I wasn't thinking sort of what's possible outside of this. I was thinking inside of this world, but it conformed to kind of long-standing thoughts about what Helmer's original journey would be like, which is him sort of going from being a farmer to a fighter. And it's a little bit like a Western in that sense. You've got sort of a young man on a farm, an elderly father and his sister with him, and they're being sort of persecuted by sort of almost like you think about the thugs from some some of our favorite Westerns coming in and sort of intimidating them about trying to take over their farm. And so it's a little bit of a Western kind of a mixed with sort of the fantasy genre. But yeah, it was different, but I think, I don't know, Chesterton talks about art consists of drawing the line somewhere. And this idea of constraints is such a powerful, I wonder if that's true for you, that the idea of like, even what you did is so ambitious, like the kind of story you told with Red Rex is so, there are certain parameters, and there's some, if you're going to involve like all the elements that you involve, which is kind of a unique blend, there are certain constraints that come with that. And I think that actually, instead of dampening creativity, I think it often will sort of release it. That's, I think, been my experience.
I completely agree. I think that a lot of times when as an author or doing some other form of art, you give yourself constraints. I find whenever I give myself a lot of constraints on a project, that usually makes it easier to do.
Yeah.
So that part really, really resonates with me. And to that other point, I was actually given a talk to a local fifth grade class, and it was super duper fun. They were very enthusiastic. And one of the questions that I was getting was from a girl who wanted to design video games someday. So, me and my brother, who designed the cover for the story and did all the illustrations, we were sort of there as a team, right? So I'm the storyteller, my brother's the artist, and that really helped because the kids who didn't care too much for the writing usually liked the art, and vice versa. So we could sweep a lot of the kids, and they were great. One of the kids really wanted to design video games, so she was asking how this would all play into it. And the answer I gave was, I think a lot of the principles would apply, right? Because if you look at a lot of the very well-crafted video games, and there are a lot of really well-crafted video games out there now, they follow a lot of the same story principles that would apply to novelists, to a film director, to a lot of story, because good video games tell a story. So it's going to follow the same principles. You have the hero who wants something, who has the obstacles in his way, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the character building along the way, which I'm sure you did. So your answer that it flowed pretty smoothly, that actually makes a lot of sense when we consider the larger process of just what makes a good story. And to that point, because I'm sure a lot of listeners are intrigued by this Helmer angle. So you mentioned that this is sort of an origin story for Helmer. Would this story be designed for like, after you've read the Green Ember, this will make more sense? Or could it be a good entry point for someone who may or may not have familiarity with Green Ember?
That is a great question. And it is a wide open front door. You can come right in here. You do not have to have read the previous 11 Green Ember books or the main 4. It will be fine. For those people, it will really ring some of your bells. You'll love some of the illusions and some of the things in the story. You'll really enjoy it. But it's not really a barrier. You can come in here from anywhere and enjoy this story, the novel and the game, with no problem. And it won't really ruin anything major. It's a good first story for someone to join. But I totally agree with you about the game too. It's even the games that are like really big, the big AAA games that have massive branches where you can make a choice and go over here and do this. It is the illusion of choice, right? It's not real because that there is a game maker. And I feel like the apologetics conversation coming on, but there really is, and it's design, and it's from a curator, from a creator, and every sort of experience. Our game is a lot less. It's on rails a little bit. Like you don't. It's not a huge world that you can just go anywhere, which I actually think parents will like, because it's a little bit of an old school game in that sense. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You go through it, and it's not just endless sort of opportunities to do a million different side quests. It's which I think would be cool in some ways, but it's a story, and you're doing a thing, and so that way it's kind of like the old, I don't know, like Contra or some kind of old game that I loved growing up as a kid. And so it's a little bit of a throwback, and I think that we long for that. I think in a sense, I don't know, you've probably thought a lot about this too, but the age of sort of augmented reality, you think about storytelling, or why can't you make would you make an augmented reality or virtual reality sort of movie or books or that kind of thing? And that feels like I sat in one of those eggs out in California once and did a How to Train Your Dragon thing where I'm like looking around in this headset, and I'm seeing, and I'm riding on this dragon all over the place, and I'm looking every which way. And I was just, it got me thinking about all these sorts of story possibilities. But I think in the end, isn't what we want from storytellers, from directors, from game makers, isn't what we want, like, to be led to, for someone to take us by the hand and say, look here and don't look there. And just look here. And well, no, let's walk past this. Let's walk past this. Okay, no, don't look over there. Don't look right here. This is where it's at. I just think of the best. Even I think about Jane Austen, who's one of the greatest novelists ever. And people sometimes complain about, there's all this big stuff going on in the world, the Napoleonic Wars, and all this stuff, and you're not even hardly mentioning it. And it's just like, that's not where she's saying to look. And guess what? Where she's saying to look is awesome, and it's so good. I mean, is it small? Yeah, it's small in a sense. It's an amazing little compact world, and millions and millions of people love it because she's so good at saying, look right here and don't look over there. And so I don't, that's what I want. And I want to trust a good storyteller.
Absolutely. And to that point that you brought up, there are very much two different categories of games in terms of the narrowness of the rails, right? There are different types where they're basically open world concepts in a sense. Mm-hmm. And those are games where you can be like the hero. You're sort of out in this seemingly limitless world. You do different side quests. You can sort of do them in different orders. And first off, like you already mentioned, even those games have structure. I've watched some videos about this. It's fascinating how they try to design the world so you funnel the characters into the right place. So even in these quote unquote open worlds, there are rules. There's a certain set that you do. And I will admit, my younger brother loves these sort of games, and a lot of people love them, and some of them are really well crafted. That's not where I gravitate toward, because when I'm given limitless possibilities, I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? Like there's this one video game I was playing where I'm like an alien, fighting other aliens in space. I'm on this planet, and it's like, where do I go? I'm just sort of wandering around the planet looking for bad guy aliens, and I felt aimless and anxious in a video game. I prefer, and maybe this is just when I grew up, one of my favorite video games ever was the Super Nintendo Super Mario World, where it's side-scrolling, so it's two-dimensional. You know exactly where you're going. You have the bad guys to jump on. And I think there's a time and place for both video games. A lot of it depends on your personality, depends on what age you are, but there's definitely value in both of these. So it sounds like for your game, yours would be more similar to the side scrollers than the open world concept. Is that correct?
It is. It's not a side scroller. It's like 3/4 view down, so you can go in all directions, that kind of thing. But it is on rails. They're not limitless possibilities. It is very limited. You are definitely going a direction, and you can't. I mean, you could go on a level. You could go, for all the way back to the beginning and go through again, and that kind of thing. You can explore the space but it's not a whole world where you can just, or there's infinite loops or that kind of a thing. It is a lot more curated than that, for sure. And some of that's constraint of just budget too, but I think that I prefer those two, and I think it's comforting for parents. It's a challenge to think about. I think a lot of parents are wary of, video games, and sort of they see a lot of the abuses of some of the ways that modern games are monetized, and they don't treat their customers or kids very humanely or hospitably. So we've tried to do something pretty radically different than that. And I think that part of it is that it's a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, and that's the next section I wanted to discuss because, like I mentioned, I grew up playing video games. I enjoy them. It sounds like you are probably in a similar boat to me, where you grew up being familiar with video games. You're comfortable with them. A lot of folks, and I would say especially folks who are in sort of our arena, right? The Anselm arena, the Green Ember parents arena. Some of them may have some skepticism toward video games. And as you mentioned, a lot of that skepticism is reasonable based on abuses they've seen from other video games.
Yeah.
So what are the most common concerns you have heard from parents about having, this video game? And what are the steps that you've done to address those concerns?
Well, it was from the very beginning. I almost felt like I didn't need to consult a whole lot because I'm already there, and that's been sort of my whole experience with the audience from my books. Even choices I've made about sort of the level of violence, the level of intensity, the level of danger, that kind of a thing. I've always sort of trusted my gut on that, and I've listened to people, had conversations for sure. But it was always, there was never an option of like, we're going to make this game like a money machine that just doesn't, that has in-game ads and predatory kind of things. And we really, from the very beginning, that was completely off the table. And it was just the heart was to, what is the best possible gift to kids? What would I give to my own kids? This is the standard that I only set for the books and or whatever else we do. So it had to be radically hospitable. I had to treat kids as human beings. I think one thing is, I think we are seeing the effects of kids just spending all kinds of time on screens and not enough time outdoors, that sort of thing. We have parents who are really tuned into that. So that's why it's important that this game has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's like going into read a book. It's got the same sort of time commitment, a similar kind of a time commitment. We usually don't get mad or upset with a kid who will spend a lot of time reading, but at some point you might be like, okay, let's go outside. And so I think there's a balance question that is important for us as human beings, that we don't want to be all in on one thing. And I think that actually, you go back, I was just reading Thomas Jefferson's opinions about novels, and he was just, these are completely worthless things, time wasting and awful. And it's sort of like every medium that comes along, there are questions about it, which I'm sympathetic to. And I'm not a big gamer myself. I do see a lot of gaming as wasting time, and I do see it as challenging. And honestly, probably because of my natural proclivity for to get lost in story worlds. Like, I think I'm I'm in danger of I think I've managed that myself because I've got to be careful with it. So I've made a game that I would like because it does have this, and we're in the Kickstarter, we have this thing called the Time Steward Adventure Journal, which we're releasing as well at the same time. And most of the tiers in the Kickstarter have it, but it's something that sort of is a tool for parents to keep track of time, and families and kids. It's like a kid to own, like, this is what I want to do, so that they're going in thinking about. It's kind of I don't know, Andy Crouch has got some wonderful thoughts about technology, and some of that's been sort of put into this idea of just, I'm going to do things on purpose. I'm going, it might be the same. It was similar to what I did with my older kids when they got cell phones. It was kind of like, what's the plan here? We were going to go in with a plan. This is a cool thing. It's a dangerous thing. It's a thing that can waste a lot of your time. And what's your plan for when you're going to put it away, when you're going to, and so we sort of worked on that together. And I think this tool will be something that will help on that front. I'm going to spend this amount of time reading. We're going to spend this amount of time gaming. We're going to spend this amount of time outside. I'm going to try to manage my time in a very intentional way. So I think that's a big concern that parents have, that we've really tried to hit head on, because it's not, because we're in the same spot. We're there with the parents. We're there. I mean, that's who we are, and it's who I am. So I think it's, I feel really confident about it as a good gift, and I'm excited to share it. I think it's just, so many people are already playing games, a lot. And my family would be like probably a moderate gamers, that kind of a thing. They play like Fortnite and FIFA and that sort of thing. But I still love sort of Galaga and the old Super Mario Brothers, that kind of thing. That's my favorite stuff. I like playing FIFA too. But this is I think this is a very appealing game for probably even sort of people who are game skeptic. I think it would be. It's a literary game, and I don't know. I don't. Part of me wants to say, like, trust me, you're going to enjoy. And if it's just like, we don't do video games, I respect that. That's totally fine. There's a wonderful novel for you to enjoy. But I am excited about this way of playing. I think it's a really cool opportunity for kids, and we've made it. I think it's such a high quality bar. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of the work that's gone into it, that I think it's imagine a really top movie or something. It's like you're entering into it. It's a special kind of special. I think it's a special opportunity for readers.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. A couple that really stood out to me is one, the issue of balance, of moderation in general, because I'm so glad you pointed this out. If you look back through history, a lot of the things we think of correctly as good things, novels. I've also seen the people bring up old things that people wrote about chess. They were very concerned. A lot of those concerns people expressed about novels or chess or many other things are the concerns people have about video games today. And to your point, it's it's balance. If a kid is only reading novels, doesn't go outside and play, doesn't exercise, doesn't socialize with other kids, well, that's a problem, right? Similar thing with video games. If all you're doing is that's a problem. If you're playing it in moderation, it sounds like that's what your family strives for. That's what my family strives for. Then that can be a very different thing. And also, something that I have noticed, me thinking back to the video games I've played in my life and now with my kids, I notice a huge difference between things I'm doing on my own. I'm just sort of grinding away to try to earn little video game rewards versus the things I've done with other people. So playing multiplayer games, being interactive with people. I regret a lot of the time I spent just grinding on my own to get stuff in the video game. I don't regret looking back at my teen years and playing Halo with a big group of friends, because I was hanging out with my friends, and that part is the really fun part. It sounds like that is what you are striving for at this video game, where it's something that you're designing for a family to enjoy in moderation, without a lot of the trappings that are more easy to fall in. So that sounds absolutely fantastic. And I have so many questions about the mechanics of the video game. And unfortunately, we're running low on time. But I do want to ask, just in general, what was it like sort of approaching a company of like, hey, can you design a video game for me? And what's been the input process for that?
We were searching for a good partner to implement the game and to create it, because obviously, this is a similar challenge with films. We can't do that on our own. We don't have the capacity to do it on many fronts. And so we had great partners on several fronts with this, and including the game development. And I've been talking for years with this gentleman named Brian Ingram, who runs a company called Brazen Animation, and they make they're incredible animators. That's his background, storytelling, that kind of thing. They've done a lot of game cinematics for big video games and companies, and they've worked with the NBA and with done a lot of sort of commercial work with the film industry. They do animation for spots for the films and for the Oscars, all kinds of stuff. They're really, really top quality. And Brian's a devout Christian guy. We've hit it off for years and had this very similar vision for what we want to do in the world. So I love Brian, and I went to him because I knew he'd worked with a lot of video game companies, and just asked him, hey, do you have any advice for people who might be good at making this game that would kind of line up with our values. And we're trying to do this thing that's really weird, and we're trying to be radically hospitable to kids and not just have all kinds of sort of upsells and buy this all the time kind of a thing. We're trying to just make a good gift for kids. And he said, well, we're making a game right now, and I can show it to you, and we're sort of getting into this. So he showed me their game, and it was awesome. It was so cool. And we met with their team, and we had such a high values alignment. And they have such a high quality, sort of what we think of when we create our books, like this really high bar of excellence that we strive for. And so we were just in harmony, and it was a real easy choice to work with Brazen, and they're fantastic. They've just been so good to work with, awesome partners in this, and been a good conversation back and forth about how to sort of story input versus the gameplay. And I kind of go to them with a big wish list of what if they could they do this? Can they? And they come back with, I don't know. Let's try it. So it's not always been easy for sure, but it's like anything that has some significance. I think when you're trying to give a good gift to kids that's a little bit countercultural, you're gonna run into some obstacles. And my hope is that that the fight that we're doing to try to make something that's hospitable in this way, that's fun, that's excellent in this way, that the audience will see that and be excited and want to jump in, because it's a real, I don't know, it's there are a lot of challenges, but the game makers, the guys who we partnered with at Brazen, have just been awesome, and it's been a really, really cool experience. I think you're going to love the gameplay is so awesome. It's so fun. It's a really, really fun game. I can give it as you can be moral, but not excellent, and you can be moral and excellent, but not really necessarily fun. But I love that this game is sort of moral in the sense that it's designed with the good of the audience in mind, and it's in a moral universe that I think the parents would be pleased for their kids to be immersed in. It's excellent, high quality. It's not lagging. It's not because it's a moral game, it doesn't really have to be as good because you're getting a good lesson. It's not that. It's excellent. And then it's so fun. It is so fun to play. You're jumping, you're shooting your arrows. The ground is falling out under you, and you got to jump to the next thing, and there's arrows come across. You've got to solve a puzzle. You've got to fight a big bully. You've got you've got to escape before the thing crumbles. It's awesome. It is it's so fun.
That is so great to hear. And I will tell you, this morning I was talking with my wife just about this interview, and I say the word Green Ember video game, and from the other room, my first grader overhears me, and he yells out, "Green Ember video game? What?" So I get the feeling a lot of kids are going to have the same reaction as my son. So I am really looking forward to this. So we are just about out of time, but nuts and bolts. Where are we in the game development? I understand we have a Kickstarter. How can folks support this, and what can they look forward to?
Well, thank you, Matt. They are. I mean, we're kickstarting it right now, and Kickstarter is really kick finisher. We've done a lot of work. We're not starting out. I think some people think oh, you just have an idea and you throw it up on there, and they people give you money, and then you do it. We're doing it. I mean, we're working on it. We are battling for it, which is what we've done. Every time we sort of share a project ahead of time. It's a way to pre-order. It's a way to support. It's a way to help us kind of get over the edge there. We need help. We actually need a lot of support. You can imagine it's a different financial prospect to make a video game versus making a novel. Requires a lot more people, a lot more time, a lot more tech. So it's a big challenge. It's a huge challenge. So I kind of want people to, I like it when people just say this will be great for my family, but there's a little bit more at stake here. I think possibly with if you want this kind of thing, to work, it's a little bit against the odds. And I like that. I love the underdog story. That's a lot of Green Ember adventures are that way. But these small little hit guys out of West Virginia. Can they do something that's on a different level of budget and with a high commitment to excellence? Can we do something special here? I think I think it's possible, but it might not work. Like all great adventures, this might not work, and we are excited, and we hope that folks will see our heart and jump in to back the Kickstarter at a level that would be that's best for their families. But the Kickstarter is running right now, and I don't know where you can find. I guess if you just go to sdsmith.com, you can probably. I don't know what the link is at Kickstarter. I bet it would have a lot of symbols and letters and numbers in it.
Awesome. Well, again, I am so looking forward to this. And yes, listeners, please keep a lookout for where you can help contribute to the Kickstarter, where you can follow along. I know you'll be able to do it on SD Smith's website. I know for Anselm, we will be sharing this on our socials as well. So please get out there and help support this. And I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you once again, SD Smith, for joining us at the pub table. And listeners, as you can probably tell, things are winding down at the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Fire's down to embers, the customers are trundling home, and you've polished off your final glass. Once again, Believe to See is a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. If you have just a little bit of extra time today, please rate and review the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you all so much for joining, and we will catch you next time.